Hello everyone from Tony the Scarghost. I'm very happy to be here with two amazing people from FXG, Nick Mitchell and Wilson Lee. Welcome to this cool interview, guys.
Yo, hello, Tony. Hey, everybody. Thanks for having us
Hi,
on.
everybody.
Yeah, they've been very kind to connect with me from China. So there will be also can be some delay in this communication to talk about some cool projects they've done. It's also related with an amazing product, a camera that FXG is building. But before getting into this amazing cool stuff, let's start from the basics. So Nick, can you introduce the FXG and your team?
Yeah, so FXG is a VR film tech company based out of Hangzhou, China. Hangzhou is like an hour away from Shanghai, the home of Alibaba and a bunch of other tech giants that people maybe never heard of. But it's a great city, and we make VR film technology. So our most important products are a VR camera. Released internationally now is the FM Duo. So it's a 12K full frame VR camera, and now it's in China. It's become kind of the standard for doing super high resolution 8K live streams. And so that's what we've been up to a lot, working with Bytedance and the other big tech giants in China, and soon around the world, helping them to create amazing high quality VR live streams.
Wow, that's cool. And let's start from one of these amazing projects. It is the one that you're still doing with Pico. That is the becoming one of the leading brands of VR, especially after the acquisition of Bytedance. I mean, in China was already a consumer brand before, but now it's getting huge also here in the West. So you did some concerts with some Chinese artists, if I remember well. Can you talk with us about this project too?
Yeah, these projects have been really like meaningful for me. I feel on like a deep emotional level. Um, I've been making VR films for like half a decade, and I filmed so many concerts. And I remember like first trying to go film a concert, and people wouldn't even let me film. And then finally, people had heard about VR. I found people willing to give it a try, and they would let me film, but it'd be like, okay, don't get in the way of anybody. So they put me like in the back beside all the other long like telephoto lens cameras, and I would get like the worst footage. And then finally they'd be like, all right, you can go near the stage, but don't get in the way of any of the other camera shots. And with ByteDance or with Pico, for everybody who doesn't know, ByteDance is the company that owns TikTok, and now they also own Pico, which is the leading Chinese VR headset. So when I say Pico or ByteDance, they're the same company. It's like Oculus or Meta currently. But so now working with ByteDance, the first one that they did, Wang Shi, which is like an up and coming singer. His name is Elvis Wang. I got sorry. Also, sorry everybody that we're sitting in a car. I don't mean to be disrespectful to you, Tony, or to your viewers. We're just super busy recently. Yeah, so apologize for that. But back to Elvis Wang. That was a really special concert because when we filmed, they had like 1,000 people in the audience, but right in the center. So Wang Shi's here, and like a meter in front of him, they put one of our FM Duo cameras, and then like 5 meters behind that on a high angle, they had another camera. And I was like amazed because this was like right in the view of everybody. Do you know what I mean? Like from before, people telling me to stay out of the way. Here, they wanted me to be like in the perfect shot. They gave us like the ideal space for everybody to see us, which was so amazing. And then soon after doing Wang Shi, which was a really huge thing because they put us right in the middle, and we had two camera angles, which in VR people could switch back and forth from the long distance to the close distance, and they let us kind of have the priority above the audience. Then we went and filmed Michael Zhang, Zheng Michael Zheng, sorry, a Chinese name Zheng Jun. He's like the Bob Dylan of China. Everybody Wilson's age is like in love with him. I don't know, in love with him, but he grew up listening to him. And when we filmed that concert, there was no audience. So it was a huge production. Like in dollars, it would be in the millions of dollars,
What?
including the stage, which was built just for this one concert. The team, including art, FXG had maybe 20 people on set. Bytedance had a load of people. They had a production company. They had all these people, a huge production, and there was no audience. Like there was an audience, but there was no like meat body physical audience who were there. And to me, that was like an unbelievable moment where actually VR film is so important that they would spend millions of dollars and bring in a huge star for a concert that would only go to the metaverse, to people watching it through virtual reality. And so that's now what we've been doing this year is working with Bytedance on huge project after huge project, and it's all about VR. So they're putting all of this money in, hiring these amazing artists, and it's all about creating epic VR experiences, and they're really epic.
Wow, it's really incredible what you're saying, but I want to get it a bit in deeper. So ask you to Wilson and you, how it was the pipeline to create this concert? I mean, I don't think you just put through cameras and everything was done. So how that did it work on your side and also on the user side? How things were enjoyable for the users?
Yeah, so I'll start kind of on a shallow level where we went and the setup was for the second one, Michael Jung was 8 cameras. So it was 4 different positions. We're in the metaverse space. So they have like the metaverse virtual audience space. And so if you go over there, then it switches to that camera. If you go over there, it switches over there. Or you go on stage and it switches to the on stage camera. So we had all of these different cameras set up. We went there and we hooked up the cameras before we had to make sure they had a high speed internet. And then where does it go from that? So from the cameras setup, then what's the next stage? What's the pipeline?
Yeah. We use our camera to capture the we call 12K video, and that is the original fisheye lens. And we have 2 ways to deal with these videos. We can stitch them in the camera, or we use higher algorithm to produce better image quality. We use PC GPU. We're using we call the super sampling from 12K to 8K, so it gets better quality than Euro 8K. And then we do some image optimization for better color or better exposure and something, and then we stitch them to the VR 180 format, and then we streaming the data to the backend of the Bytedance. They call the Volcano engine, and they have some re-encoding of the video and some effects, and then they will do some broadcasting like CDN to the user, and the user they have their app, they can reproduce the video, and they will generate some they call 6 effects at the and the user they have some social or some function, and they just like the Euro concert you have some other audience together, and yeah, that's the pipeline.
And so I can explain a little bit about that, what Wilson was talking about. The first was kind of from us to get from our camera to them. So it's going from 12K and then downsampling to 8K and stitching it live. Um, what's the latency from our camera to their backend?
Yeah, we're using some protocol that will less than we believe less than 2 seconds. We call RTMP. It's RTMP push streaming, and they will do some effects and some we call zero effects, and then the total latency will be about 20 or 30 seconds for the end user.
And so that so from ours in the 2-second latency to their back end, and I think we call it Super 8K because we're not, the final video feed is 8K, but because it's filmed in 12K and downsampled, it's going to be a higher resolution than the 8K. And then once we go from that to their app, which is really fascinating, as far as I know, nothing exists like it in the West as far as kind of metaverse theater viewing. So it's really like what I mentioned with the what do they call it? Soft 6 stuff, light 6 stuff, virtual 6 stuff. What was the word you used?
Uh,
I'll call it 6 stuff ish. 6 stuff light. So it's the video. None of the video feeds are 6 stuff. It's a 180 high resolution video feed, but with your movement in the space, you switch back and forth between the videos. And also what Bytedance is doing that I think is really fun is combining the effects of the concert stage with VR. So the concert stage, as I guess you can see in these videos that have been cut in here, is this crazy stage with all these LCD screens and everything set up there, and the colors change and video plays on the back. And then depending on the colors of the actual video and the actual stage, the space also changes. So the virtual metaverse kind of concert hall changes. So in one song, it's like white and blue, like kind of a sky and paper airplane animation on the back LCD screens. And so then while that video's playing, they have animated paper airplanes that fly out. And so you can actually see, like they do so much to actually connect their virtual concert space where you have your avatars and your people with the actual video feed. So you really can actually get that feeling like they're connected, like they're one. So it's not, this isn't a virtual theater where I'm seeing the concert happening there. It's like I'm actually connected to it.
That's cool, but I have a question just to be sure. But so you were streaming live this concert, or you recorded it and then you performed it later?
Live.
Wow.
So, and you said from the concert to the headset is 10 to 20 seconds?
Yeah, it's about 20 or 30 seconds. So for the total latency.
Yeah, and so that's completely live. And actually what now, because you can send in comments and emojis and different things on the Pico video platform. And so now they're hooking it up. So actually there's like interactions with the performer. So it's kind of like in Altspace where, but Altspace is a person who's in the virtual space doing a virtual concert, but they can see the emojis from everybody and everything. But now they're connecting it where the person doing the concert can see the comments and different things from people watching, and also adding in actual interactions. So in one part where a menu pops up with a vote for what should his next song be. And so they planned it in advance that everybody would get a vote then, and then the people in VR can select and actually influence. That message gets back to the performer, and then he kind of alters his performance based upon interactions by the many in VR.
So is there a custom app by Pico to do that, or is the Pico video application, or is it like Pico concert? It's what is it?
That's the app, Pico Video.
Pico Video, yeah.
Okay, makes sense. Are you also using 5G, technically speaking, or it's not necessary for what you're doing?
It would be wired internet from the concert hall, and then to the viewer. Maybe they're at home on their Wi-Fi or they're outside on 5G. But it can run on 4G, but with the 5G would be a perfect connection.
Okay, makes sense. And why have you decided to do a concert in with your cameras and 180 VR and not with the all CGI, like for instance, is something I usually work on, or with the 360 videos. I mean, why did you choose this format?
So why live action? Yeah.
And in 180, if understood correctly.
Yeah. So 180 over 360 is just where the technology is at. The future of VR film, definitely 360 is going to be king, but with current resolutions. So let's say an 8K 180 video is going to be twice as high resolution as an 8K 360 video, because you have 8,000 kind of pixels that are in half of your view instead of all of your view. So for that, with the current methods, and also VR live streaming in 360, nobody can really do that well, like live stitching and everything. Stay tuned, a little teaser. FXG is planning on releasing a 360 camera next year that will be able to do all-in-one live streaming over a 5G native connection, but that's not announced yet. I've never told any media about that. That's a little sneak peek for you, Tony.
Thank you.
but but it's hard, yeah. So it's hard to make a good 360 live stream, and nearly impossible actually. So that's why we choose 180 over 360, and live action over CG, because you want to see the star you love. Like you want to see them. Do you know what I mean? Like it's pretty cool if I can see an avatar that's like controlled by Justin Bieber, like he did with his metaverse concerts. Um, but you want to see Justin Bieber. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, hey, wow, this represents Justin Bieber, or this is controlled by Justin Bieber. But if it was a VR video, it's like, no, this is Justin Bieber. And so I just believe that for actual experiencing a concert, it depends. I think virtual shows and concerts will be super huge for virtual idols, like Miku Miku, the Japanese V idol. For sure, it makes sense and it's awesome because she exists as a virtual being. But for people who exist as physical beings, we want to see them physically.
And what was the biggest difficulty you had in creating these concerts? I mean, I can't even imagine the effort and the responsibility you had, but what were your biggest difficulties and how you solved them?
Yeah, we've had so many difficulties,
Yeah.
but yeah, Wilson, talk about the tech. What are some of the challenges to
Mhm.
go through here?
From technologies, we met some difficulties. I remember first is uh, for you just mentioned 5G, but in the real cases we use Ethernet, but it's still because we are filming in a city far from their CDN center in Beijing, and there are thousands of kilometers. So the network is not so ideal, and we are using very high bandwidth. We're using hundreds of megas to keep the image quality, and there are eight camera. It means there are eight channels we need to transmit at the same time. So sometimes we find the network is not so stable. That and we worked with Bytedance. Finally we solved a very stable network, and then
How did you solve the network?
uh, actually, this very technical. They set up some local interface at that city to give directly CDN from that city to Beijing, and we got very low latency after that. First, we get 100 milliseconds delay, and then we get very low, about 3 or 4 milliseconds. That is very stable. Yeah. Then after that, the live is very stable, and some we met some other is that to do the synchronization for all the channels. They need to keep the very highly synced, and we use some.
Oh yeah, because you have all of these different video feeds that are all need to be like perfectly synced because it's in the virtual space. Maybe I'm on the right side of the concert and now I want to move to the left side of the stage. And so the moment I move there, it should be seamless. Do you know what I mean? And it's the music. You're watching a concert, so if it's off by any time, it's going to be totally ruined. So it all needs to be like this perfect sync across everything.
Yes. Actually, I think it's not secret that Bytedance, we talk with them using some private protocol that is it's not it's modification of the, for example, RTMP. We add some information about the timestamp as streams, and then all the process, they keep this information until they to the headset player, and they still get the information. They know what is the same timeline, and they keep the keep to.
So we built our own private protocol that contains time information.
Actually,
That's amazing. I didn't even know how cool with that.
I think it's Bytedance. They make this protocol. We just follow their, yeah, and yes, but maybe there's some other ways to solve this problem. But this is one of. I think we have some other suggestion, but maybe they will try at the future events. That's a difficulty we have met. And
I think on from my perspective of it. Oh, sorry guys, I look weird with the sun shining right in my eyes. Anyways, on every step of the way, pretty much we met all kinds of new tech challenges because it's like what I believe from everything that we've seen, like the first 8K live stream we did is the very first one that's ever been done in China. I'm not sure about the entire world. I don't know of one specifically. It may be the world's first, but definitely in China, there's never been an 8K 3D simultaneous live stream. Like there've been tech demos of TV stations that have done it to show off the tech, but actually from a event to like thousands or tens of thousands of users directly into their homes, that was the first. And so like that where we had to rebuild a special CDN in the location and using timestamps combined with the video feed, there was just so much from our side as well as from Bytedance that needed to be built new or edited from the past to be able to actually just run the event.
And how many people attended these events?
The statistics haven't been given of how many people attended the event, but something that you can share, here, the video, I don't know where it will be playing, but you can see here in this video, what this is during the event, you have like a virtual camera that you can carry, and you can use that to take selfies in the event. You can use that to film the band. You can do all these things with it inside of VR, inside of the Pico headset. And then with one button, you can share it directly to your Douyin. Douyin is a Chinese version of TikTok. And so you can see here, this is from the Michael Jungjun's event. There are hundreds and hundreds of shares that people took selfies inside in videos. And this next one, you can see this is from like a Chinese, kind of like K-pop, but K-pop, a C-pop, I don't know what they call it. But this band name, and again, you can see when their concerts happen, go live, there are so many posts on Douyin. So you can see that there's a lot of people, and I don't know what percentage of people post, but there's hundreds of people posting. So there are definitely a lot of people who are enjoying it and experiencing it. And Pico has been selling like probably, I guess the numbers aren't shared yet either, but from what we know, the amount of headsets that are being sold are huge, and a huge part of that is because of these events. Like Pico totally has a concept that I personally share of VR being so much more than an immersive gaming console, that it's actually for everybody. And so that's why um, their investments are in these events. And so they've been pulling in all kinds of people who aren't traditional VR users because they have these amazing experiences, live and recorded, of IPs and artists and things that people love.
That's very very cool. So compliments of what you've done, and I want to get back instead to how you did the concept, especially about your camera that was fundamental to shoot this kind of performances. So can you tell me something more about it, like the specifications or the details of all the tech details about this camera?
Yeah, FM Duo, Wilson, tell us about it. What's this
we
camera? Yeah.
we hope that more professionals they will be using or like our camera for technical
Yeah.
specification. Oh yeah, for FM Duo it's a full frame a dual full frame sensor, and it can capture 12K video, and it can do the embedded stitching and live streaming. And then we also use some we call super sampling from 12K to 8K, and it will get very best image quality for live streaming or recording. They are all very good for professionals to do their production. And we have some software support recording and live streaming. We call FM Live, and it can do the real-time stitching for 12K to 8K, and do some image optimization and stitching. Uh, yeah. So we think it's a very professional machine for those higher end users to do the live streaming and some other recording of something.
Yeah,
I,
the dual full frame sensors is huge because that's super high resolution on there, and then to be able to stitch inside the camera, the embedded stitching. Yeah, so there's a lot of tech parts that really make it shine, that offer such an experience that makes Bytedance choose us when they're doing $1 million production. Only a small part of that goes to the actual um, kind of, well, so much is used on the stars and on the stage, but they make sure every part they have to get the best quality.
and when you say 12K, is 12K for all the sensors or for every eye?
For the sensor, there are two full frame sensor inside camera. Each can capture 8,000 square at the same time, and so we can combine the two lens together. It's about 12K and by 6K, and yeah. So the resolution, we think it's very important for VR filming, and also it's full frame, so they get very good image quality. Yeah.
And what about the frame rate?
Frame rate we using 30, and uh, actually FM Duo can record in 8K 60, and that's it's very good for some sports scenes and some other faster movements.
But we record for Bytedance in these concerts. We do it in 30 frames per second because then we can record in 12K. And even though the final view on the headset is 8K, but because it's a 12K film downsampled to 8K, it's going to be higher quality.
Yes, and I tried in Some like in April, I tried the camera from Canon. You know that now I have the camera, you can stitch
Of
the
course.
new objective on. It was a very good product, I think. What do you think they are the difference with this kind of hardware, Canon or similar hardware?
Great question.
Yeah. First is that our camera can do live streaming, and I can do embedded stitching, or we would call outside stitching using PC. And live streaming is very important for our design. And second, and for the image quality, we have to do some tests. Even in 8K to 8K, we believe we have more better quality and resolution. And if we use 12K sampling to 8K, we will get even better image quality. Yeah, and yes, we that's it. And there's some other issues that we have to do some very long time recording and live streaming. We test over, for example, 72 hours that we do some tests, and our camera can do the live streaming very stable. And
72 hours straight.
Wow.
yeah.
And it didn't explode.
No.
Well, that's good then. And one thing that I appreciated, for instance, when the Canon guy let me see the camera, is that it seemed to be also usable from someone like me, like a hobbyist or not a professional. Are you targeting only professionals, or like if I want to use it, maybe you just give me some instructions, I'm able to use it regarding your camera?
No. So this is for professionals. But we have plans in the future to create a model. Like currently this camera sells for almost $20,000, and we have plans for another model coming out that we want it to be cheaper, and we also want it to be more accessible. So our goal is for the long term to be able to make amazing VR cameras so everyone can live stream and record epic VR content. But we're beginning with kind of the very top of the market, focusing on Bytedances and brands like this to give them the greatest VR quality, and then we're going to slowly, step by step, try to expand it to the rest of the world.
Makes sense. So can you just repeat for clarity in case someone is interested where people can buy it and for what price?
Yeah, so just you can visit our website, fxgvr.com. And what's the camera website? We just made a new website specifically about the camera.
FMcam.cn, we believe.
Okay, check in the description or somewhere. But fxgvr.com, you can find information, and currently the camera sells for just under 20,000 US dollars.
Okay, makes sense. Anyway, it's a product for professionals, and that's the usual, the range price for this kind of product. So you don't go doing $1 million production with a $100 smartphone. So this is very interesting, actually. What I've heard now. I just want to, before leaving you, after all this interesting chat, ask you a few questions since you are in China, and also lately, after the COVID, it was the communication between China and the West have become more complicated because of all the restrictions. I want to ask you two things. The first one is, how is different, in your opinion, doing this kind of virtual events in China while opposite doing them in the West? We're seeing, for instance, Meta is doing some events with streaming of artists. You're doing the same, but in China with Chinese artists. What kind of difference do you see in this?
I think one thing that you mentioned about potentially because of COVID, I think for anywhere in the world, that's made the concept of virtual events to be a lot more meaningful. So people are really interested in that, and the concept makes sense. So it's like, well, I mean, we don't know when we will be able to or whatnot. Though in China now, most COVID restrictions are kind of low, so people can still go to events. But um, I guess as what I would see as the difference is that, like, let's say maybe because it's two brands basically. The West is Meta, China is Bytedance, and so Meta Oculus, Bytedance Pico. My biggest difference I see is the focus on film. So when you see the investment that Meta has done in sponsoring content, in sponsoring developers, and in things like that, you can see it's primarily in games and applications. And they still, I'm sure they still spend good money doing concerts and things, but the ratio of it. So Pico definitely they support games on their platform, but it's very clear to them that their belief in the growth of the platform is that video is like the killer app. Whereas I think to Meta, video is one thing, and I don't know what their focus is on it, but it's very clear with ByteDance that they have a belief that that can take VR to the masses, specifically VR video and VR live streams.
And last question is, what about the Chinese metaverse? Because there is a lot of chat in the West, but people have very confused idea what is happening. A lot of bullshit being said, just to be very honest. So how do you see the development of the metaverse in China in these years?
It's way more crazy than even in the West. Like they have metaverse conferences, they have metaverse incubators, they have metaverse in government wide initiatives, like from like a provincial level of some places. But it's definitely bigger than the West, but I don't think it's any more sensical than the West. Like it's still there's everybody's talking about it, but I think conceptually it's so um, broad and confused. So people are all talking about it and they all think that it's a thing that's important that they should care about, but do they even understand what it is a total question. So I think it's very similar to the West, where it's so much hype with a little bit of actual kind of serious projects on it. Though, um, like around all the smoke and mirrors and everything of just kind of nonsensical hype, I personally believe that this kind of live streaming connected with social VR, I believe that that will be a great metaverse use case. And I know the metaverse is like an annoying word, but I could say a social VR use case because it's all about having these social VR experiences, whether it's VR chat or AltSpace or Horizons or in China the Oasis or VHome or Pico Video. You have these awesome kind of platforms where you can connect with other people, but it also comes down to what are you going to do in these platforms. And video is such a core part of content just in general. So we've seen, like, if we look traditionally at the internet, video has been a key part of the internet. And we look at mobile development, video has been a key part of it. And we see, like, the metaverse is Web 3.0 and that's going to be such an important thing. But I think a lot of people don't have video as a core part of that. Like, that's like something that we've totally forgotten. And so I think in the metaverse, video is going to be huge. And I believe that the metaverse is VR. And so that's why I think Pico Video is a metaverse use case. You and a bunch of friends, you go to a concert and you experience an epic concert and you're taking selfies of your avatar and you're sharing them on social media. To me, that feels like a really strong metaverse experience. And so that's becoming huge in China. And I think that's going to influence internationally as these kind of amazing experiences. As Pico expands out of China, these experiences are going to be done outside of China, and I think it's going to start to change the whole world's perception of what video can be in VR.
Wow, that's very fascinating. So before leaving you, if you still have something that you want to say to my readers and viewers, you are free to talk and say whatever you want.
Anything else to say, Wilson?
I think maybe for Bytedance or some other people in China, they are not right or something, but there are many people that are doing some tests. I think they are great. Maybe some of them ideas will be successful or very cool. But many other ideas, I think they are not very cool, but they are still testing the best way to experience VR. I think that's cool.
Yeah, I love that. I'm not going to even add anything. That there's so many tests going on. Some things are going to succeed, some things are going to fail, but it's amazing to be in VR and see people trying new things, and something's going to stick. And at FXG, we hope to be a part of it, of whatever that looks like in the future.
Wow, and for sure, I'm sure that among the things that will succeed, there will be you cool people FXG, because I know you for a lot of time and I know the cool things you're working on. So I invite everyone to go to your website, fxgvr.com, so can see whatever you've done. So I thank you, Nikk and Wilson, for this amazing chat. And I wish to one of my viewers and readers have a great day in VR. So bye, everyone.
Thank you so much, Tony. Thanks for having us. Bye, guys. Look forward to chatting more. Hit us up with any questions about VR film coming to a metaverse near you.